Make sure you subscribe to JerCrispy.
What's up, y'all? It's your host with the most, the does the most, JerCrispy. Welcome back to another video. Today, what I got you, why Michael Jordan hate Krause. I know the reason why he hate him. There's a lot of reason why. If you watch The Last Dance, then you'll know what's going on. But it's about nonstop. So let's see what he got going on. I don't know if he's gonna say the same thing, but make sure you like, comment, subscribe, follow all social media. It's gonna pop up on the screen. And yeah, let's see how it goes. See how this goes. Michael Jordan, the GOAT.
I do sincerely believe that organizations as a whole win.
Jerry Krause, the Bulls general manager, says, quote, organizations win titles, not players, end quote.
Have a sense of respect for the people who've laid the groundwork so that you could be a profitable organization.
Michael Jordan hated Bulls general manager Jerry Krause so much he nearly left Chicago and blamed him for blowing up the Bulls in 1998. But why did Jordan dislike his GM so much, even after they won 6 championships together? This is the complete story of the beef between MJ and one of the most successful general managers of all time. Jerry Krause was a scouting legend. He was the first and only executive in 2 different sports, having dual careers in basketball and baseball. Jerry's NBA career started in the 1960s as a scout for the Baltimore Bullets, and Krause immediately made a name for himself. In 1965 and 1967, Krause found 2 future Hall of Famers from low-division programs in Jerry Sloan and Earl the Pearl Monroe. After Baltimore, Krause worked as a scout for the Suns, 76ers, Lakers, and Bulls throughout the 70s and 80s. During that time, Krause was a baseball scout for the Cleveland Indians, the Oakland A's, the Seattle Mariners, and the Chicago White Sox. Krause was often viewed as the hardest-working scout in sports, a guy who spent all of his time watching ball players and evaluating talent. In 1985, after the Chicago White Sox owner Jerry Reinsdorf also bought the Chicago Bulls, he plucked Krause from the White Sox staff and handpicked him to become the new general manager of the Bulls. Despite his experience, Krause had an extremely tough challenge ahead. What Krause inherited was Michael Jordan and the flying cocaine circus that were the majority of his teammates.
Joe.
The Bulls sucked with 4 consecutive losing seasons and a 38-44 record in Jordan's rookie season. However, the first move Krause made wasn't to draft any player, but a coach. Jerry hired Tex Winter as an assistant coach because he wanted Winter to teach the Bulls the infamous triangle offense.
The first person we hired was Tex Winter. He's a brilliant man, the finest offensive mind in basketball.
He then signed John Paxson and traded for Charles Oakley, who would both prove to be extremely important figures for the Bulls and Michael Jordan. But as soon as Krause's first season as GM started, the problems did too. Jordan broke his ankle in the 3rd game of the 1986 season and was ruled out for several months. As stubborn as Jordan was, he was soon playing pickup games in North Carolina, while the Bulls' doctor said he still faced a great risk of re-injuring his foot. So when Michael returned to the lineup, Krause limited his minutes, making him play just 7.5 minutes per half, carrying a stopwatch and signaling to
7.5 minutes? Dog, I'll be hating him too. I'll hate him too. You know what? You finna put me in for 7.5 minutes and you have a stop time watch me like shooting the ball. Like ain't no me playing my playing time, not shooting the ball, playing time and all that. Oh no, I'll be hating you too.
To the coaches when to sub him out. Jordan was pissed by not playing and confronted Krause about his playing time. I'm the only person in the NBA who has ever told him no. This kid has had his butt kissed by everybody in the world except his parents and me. My goal is not to be his friend. My goal is to win titles. Jerry Krause. But Krause sticking to the doctor's orders and making Jordan play limited minutes was not the real problem. For Jordan, it wasn't just what Krause said, it was also the way he said it. You're Bulls property now, and we tell you what to do. Krause. To make things worse, the Bulls GM showed up to a team meeting about Jordan and his playing time with a tape recorder, where Jordan felt betrayed and completely lost trust in Krause. I was a young, enthusiastic kid, and that just made me realize this was a business, not a game. We never hit it off after that. Jordan. After that season ended, it was time for the 1986 draft, where the beef between Krause and Jordan got even worse. Krause planned on selecting forward Brad Sellers in the draft. Jordan, on the other hand, pushed management to take Johnny Dawkins, a two-way guard from Duke. Krause told everybody that he would draft Dawkins, but on the day of the draft, he picked Sellers anyway. Jordan was livid, and he made Sellers' life hell in practice, going mercilessly at the poor guy just because he was Krause's pick. But the very next year, in the 1987 NBA draft, Krause showed why he was the right man for the job. While the rest of the GMs didn't bother finding talent in Division III universities, Krause's specialty was believing in underdogs, because he was an underdog all his life. Jerry Krause was the only NBA executive who scouted Scottie Pippen from the small University of Central Arkansas.
Yeah.
When I first saw Scottie play, I almost had an orgasm, Krause said.
Whoa!
Supersonics select Scott Pippen of Central.
Oh, no. Oh, hell no. You almost had a what? A what? A what? A what? Hold up. Run that back, man. Pause. Run that back, huh?
When I first saw
Oh, no.
Scottie play, I almost had an orgasm, Krause said.
The Seattle Supersonics select Scott Pippen of Central Arkansas.
Krause was devastated when the Seattle Supersonics drafted Pippen 5th, but then he traded the 8th pick in the draft, Olden Polynice, and future assets to get Scottie.
Technically, the Seattle club took him for us, and then we acquired him.
Krause also drafted Horace Grant, another future cornerstone of the franchise, thus completing one of the best drafts ever by an NBA GM. While Jordan couldn't be unhappy with Jerry's choices, Krause soon gave him another reason to hate him. In the 1988 season, the Bulls GM traded Charles Oakley to the Knicks for an experienced center, Bill Cartwright. Oakley was Jordan's best friend on the team and his protector on the court, especially against the bad boy Pistons. Although Cartwright did not have Oakley's toughness and rebounding, he was a more well-rounded scorer and playmaker, and was precisely what the Bulls needed. Jordan despised the Oakley trade, not only because he lost his best friend, but also because of how he and Oak found out on TV. Around that time, Jordan started openly mocking Krause in front of teammates and the media. He and Oakley nicknamed him Crumbs because of his size, and after they'd seen him with crumbs of food on his shirt. When Michael came across Krause in the hallway, he didn't say hello to him and kept trash-talking him directly and indirectly. In 1989, after the Bulls lost another playoff battle with the Pistons, Krause fired head coach Doug Collins, which was another move Jordan hated because he had a great relationship with Collins.
Now, if you're getting ready for work right now, then you're probably not Doug Collins. Chicago Bulls head coach was fired in a surprise move yesterday.
MJ rightfully felt he was the best player in the NBA and believed he should have some leverage with management decisions. So Michael went to the owner, Jerry Reinsdorf, with the ultimatum, him or me, wanting Krause fired. Zero experience as an NBA head coach. Jackson previously coached the minor league Albany Patroons and a pair of teams in Puerto Rico, with NBA teams refusing to take a chance on him, largely because of his hippie clothes and offbeat principles. In 1987, when Jackson was considering filing for unemployment or going back to law school, he reached out to Krause as a last-ditch effort to keep his coaching dream alive. Krause hired him as an assistant. Because Phil was willing to implement the triangle offense and get the ball out of Jordan's hands, Krause believed he was the perfect man for the job. It's safe to say that Jackson would never become an NBA coach if it weren't for Krause, something that would later ruin their relationship. But at first, Phil and Jerry had an excellent partnership, especially because the Bulls started winning. In Phil's second season as a head coach, the Bulls finished with the best record in the NBA, and they finally got over the Pistons hump. And then in the NBA Finals, they defeated the Lakers for their first NBA title. Aside from Jordan, all Bulls players were drafted or acquired by Krause, proving his decision-making and roster building to be successful. The very next year, in 1992, the Bulls won the title again, but Jordan's beef with Krause was still going strong. After the season, Michael and Scottie were part of the Dream Team at the Olympics in Barcelona. And while the rest of the team only had one goal, to win a gold medal, Pippen and Jordan had ulterior motives. They wanted to destroy Tony Kukoc. Kukoc was drafted by the Bulls in 1990, but he chose to stay in Europe where he kept winning EuroLeague titles. And before the Olympics, Krause kept raving about Kukoc and his skills, which pissed off Jordan and Pippen. Because they felt Kukoc was Krause's boy, they wanted to annihilate him. With an angry Jordan and Pippen guarding him, Kukoc finished the game with just 4 points on 2 for 11 shooting and 7 turnovers.
Damn.
After the Olympics in 1993, the Bulls won their third consecutive championship.
Yeah!
NBA World Champion Chicago Bulls. Congratulations. It's a great accomplishment.
After which Jordan retired and joined a minor league baseball team. Kukoc joined the Bulls after he left and immediately proved that Krause was right once again. Krause also added Steve Kerr to the team, who had been looked over by every GM in the NBA because of his size. But Krause, rightfully, believed that he was the best shooter in the league. In 1994, Krause traded for another virtual nobody in Luke Longley and signed unrestricted free agent Ron Harper, both of which proved to be huge additions to the Bulls. Jordan returned in 1995.
Superstar Michael Jordan is back in the game, and he'll play with the Bulls later today.
But because of the departure of Horace Grant, Chicago had no interior presence and lost to Shaq and Orlando in the second round of the '95 playoffs. Next season, Krause decided to battle that problem by trading for Dennis Rodman, who was unwanted by most of the NBA due to his volatile behavior.
The Bulls announced the acquisition of a player many people consider the most controversial basketball star in the NBA.
And once again, Krause was right. Jordan, Pippen, Rodman, Kukoc, Harper, Kerr, and Longley won an NBA.
And then Rodman is funny. He's funny, but he acts us, but he's funny as fuck, though. I ain't lying to you.
Record 72 games in the regular season, and then dominated the playoffs to win their fourth NBA championship. In 1997, Chicago won again, and up until then, Krause's moves almost always panned out and made the team better. But then the real problems started, and the Bulls GM made his first big mistake. Krause's relationship with Phil Jackson deteriorated. Jerry was mad at Phil for not defending him when Michael trash-talked Krause in front of everybody. Krause was a guy who believed in loyalty and who believed that Phil owed him everything since he gave him the Bulls job. And when Jackson laughed at one of Jordan's jokes about Krause, Jerry was disgusted with Phil. Krause wanted to replace Jackson after 1997.
This will be Phil's last year as the coach of the Bulls. At the conclusion of the year, we'll look towards the future.
But then the owner, Reinsdorf, intervened, and Krause reluctantly offered Phil an extension, but only for 1 year.
Bulls owner Jerry Reinsdorf has finally come to his senses, signing Phil Jackson to a one-year deal to return as coach next season.
Before the start of the '98 season, Krause told the media that he didn't care if the Bulls won 82 games and the title, that Phil Jackson would not return as head coach. Krause also made a remark about his impact on the team, famously saying,
I do sincerely believe that organizations as a whole win.
This statement particularly made Jordan angry because he was the one scoring all the points, while this 5'6", 220-pound guy never even played basketball. On top of the problems he had with MJ and Phil, Krause also had to deal with Pippen. In 1991, after their first championship, Scottie signed a 7-year deal worth $19 million, about $2.7 million per year. While the Bulls were winning their titles, Pippen was not even among the 100 highest-paid players in the NBA.
Pippen is as underpaid gets, only the 122nd highest-paid player in the league.
Scottie was extremely disappointed and wanted a big raise, but Krause didn't want to give it to him, so Scottie boycotted the start of the '98 season, opting to rehab a foot injury at the start of the season and not during the summer.
Pippen is now demanding a trade, and he says he will not return from the injured list until he has gone from Chicago.
Throughout that season, Jordan kept saying that he'd retire if Jackson wasn't the head coach of the Bulls, and that he wouldn't play for anybody else.
As it may be, I have choices, and I will not choose to play for another coach.
Despite all the turmoil, the Bulls still managed to win the '98 championship, highlighted by Jordan's shot over Byron Russell.
Yo, hit them.
Chicago with the lead!
However, Krause kept his promise, and Jackson was gone.
Phil Jackson cleaned out his office at the Chicago Bulls practice facility and made it official. After 9 years and 6 NBA titles, he is done as the Bulls coach.
And so was Michael, who retired for the second time. In the Last Dance documentary, Jordan heavily criticized Krause for blowing up the Bulls, feeling that they had another championship run in them.
We're entitled to defend what we have until we lose it.
In the documentary, Krause was never complimented for building a championship roster and finding talent where others didn't. In 2009, during his Hall of Fame speech, Jordan again reiterated how much he hated Krause and never thanked him for helping the Bulls win.
Jerry Krause
I do the same thing too.
Not here. I don't know who invited him. I didn't.
In all honesty, this was very unfair. But hey, that's MJ for you. While Krause definitely had his flaws, especially his people skills and dealing with the media, it's undeniable that he was one of the best general managers in NBA history. Dynasties can't happen without great scouting and team-friendly contracts. Without Pippen, Rodman, Kukoc, and others, MJ would still be a great player, but he probably wouldn't have 6 rings.
Oh no, he would have still had 6 rings. Wow, dude. He probably would have had like a bunch of more rings. They kept Phil Jackson for 3 more years, Jordan would at least played, at least got 3 more rings, and then they would have Phil Jackson would have got his stuff over with. They probably like damn near that dude would have had it like he would have probably called up to Bill Russell. But you know, it's Jerry Krause. Yeah, he messing up everything. Now we got a lot of things. But that was why Michael Jordan hate Jerry Krause. Cruising. And I'm gonna see y'all when I see y'all. We're on the road to 300. Love y'all to the bottom of my heart. And yeah, 300.